Okay, so now on to the actual exam. So one thing I wanted to mention is, in whatever that we're studying, especially when we do these modules, it's very important to sort of keep the big picture in mind and know where whatever particular topic we're studying, how that fits in to the overall project and program. And then to also identify what are the key points of any given module. So we went over in the Discovering Buddhism materials that were distributed to you that there are these subject area summary sheets, and within that there are the bullet points of what are the main topics to be covered in any given module. But another way to do is here, in the first module was mind and its potential. So then you should know that we're going to be talking about the mind and its potential. In the oral sort of interviews I had with all of you, then that's what I asked all of you. I asked, well, what can you tell me about the Buddhist conception of mind? And what can you tell me about the mind's potential? And so with any topic, one way to study, one way to further your understanding is we have a concept like mind. So of course you're going to want the what we call the definition, and then to be able to explain what it is. And then you'll often hear this terminology, the division of mind. Okay, so here we have the first question: explain the definition of mind. Okay, so we went over again and again the definition that's found in the traditional texts, that the mind is clear and knowing. And so many of you got that. And then we have to know what each of those words mean. So clear is this thought that the mind is like a mirror, and that it is able to reflect, just like a mirror is able to reflect anything that's put in front of it, right, depending on various causes and conditions. Then the mind too is clear in the sense that it can take on these various aspects: the aspect of anger, or the aspect of love, the aspect of hearing sounds, seeing forms. So depending on various causes and conditions, then the mind can appear or take the aspect of all these different facets. Okay, and then knowing is this a thought of being aware, cognizing, awareness. Yeah, that differentiates it from any of the material forms, right? And this will go into one of the later questions about why the Buddhists accept the existence of past and future lives. So for now, then for the context of this question, then explain the definition of mind. We need to know clear and knowing, and then we've explained those two, okay, what each of those mean. Then, what is meant by the conventional and ultimate nature of the mind? So here it's worth mentioning, because some of you, many of these questions had multi-parts like this, right? Multiple parts. And some of you, you explained the first part, but you neglected to explain the later parts. And then, when I'm reading it, and I'm, then trying to assess your level of understanding, then I'm not sure whether it is, because you only knew the answer to the first part and you didn't know the answer to the second part, or if, you were maybe doing a bit of a rush job and sort of got so into your answer of the first part that when you finish that, then, you just hit next question and, didn't go back and check if you had answered all the parts of the question. But in any way, I think on subsequent sort of self-assessments like this, do make sure that you go back and read the question in its entirety, and make sure that you've answered all of the parts of the question. Because see, now, my job then, when I look through these, and I'm also trying to find gaps in the level of understanding. So it helps me to know which things I need to go over again and explain in more detail. So then when I, receive kind of half answers like this, then I'm like, oh, well, did they not know? Do they know? And they just didn't write it here. So anyway, as they say, help me help you, okay? So here, with the conventional ultimate nature of the mind, so there was a little bit of confusion about this. So here, in one sense, it's a concept that comes up again and again. So this level, two levels of truth, right? The two truths, conventional reality, ultimate reality. And so now for any phenomena, okay, the conventional nature is whatever sort of function it can perform. So the conventional nature of fire is to be hot and burning. The conventional nature of water is to be wet and moistening. The conventional nature of a pot is to be, a flat, bellied, bulbous container capable of holding water, and so forth. Okay. So here, the conventional nature of the mind is its definition, its clear and knowing nature. But now, the ultimate nature of any phenomena is its lack of inherent existence. Okay. So I think a few of you were saying the ultimate nature of the mind is the omniscient consciousness. So that's not correct. Here it can be a bit tricky because the ultimate goal of ourselves as practitioners is to achieve the omniscient consciousness of a Buddha. So we can say that's sort of the ultimate goal of our practice. But the ultimate nature of any phenomena just is its lack of inherent existence. Okay? So the ultimate nature of the mind is its lack of inherent existence. The ultimate nature of a table is the table's lack of inherent existence, and so forth. Okay? So that is what I wanted to say about the first question. Explain the definition of mind, what is meant by the conventional and ultimate nature of the mind. So now, question 2. Explain the different senses of the word clear as they are related to the nature of the mind. What are some analogies for the mind's clear nature? Okay. So here, this is actually following in the last question about these two levels of reality of the mind. So actually this word clear, then it has a certain sense when talking about the conventional nature of the mind. So the conventional nature of the mind, clear and knowing, that means, like the mirror, able to appear, able to take all these different aspects, and at the same time being none of those aspects. Okay? And then on the ultimate level, right, then especially when some of you were talking about clear light, okay, we can, on the ultimate nature of the mind, clear means free of inherent existence, right? Free of inherent existence. So clear means, not possessing, like, clear sky is free of obstructive contact. So when we talk about the clear nature of the mind, clear light nature of the mind, on the ultimate level, that means its lack of inherent existence. So another thing you'll also see is when we talk about Buddha nature, then there is a presentation that the afflictions are not intrinsically part of the mind because the mind is of clear light nature. So another analogy that you'll see for this is the analogy of a cup of water, a cup of dirty water, where the mind's nature is clear, means intrinsically not polluted, unstained, but due to some temporary pollution, just like a water, right, can have some dirt in it, but through a process of straining the water, those impurities can be removed, leaving the clean, completely pure water left. So the mind is like that as well. It is temporarily stained by different afflictions, different obscurations, but through a process of removing those stains and afflictions, then the pristine nature of the mind, the utterly pristine mind of the Buddha will then become manifest. Okay? So that is question 2. So question 3, what are some arguments both in favor of and against the existence of past and future lives? So which do you find most convincing and why? So here, again, a two-part question. And I admit I didn't delve into this as much as we could have. It's a huge topic. But what I did talk about, and maybe didn't talk about it enough, is I mentioned that the traditional sort of proof that is given for past and future lives in Dharmakirti's Pramanavartika, okay, all centers around this concept of the substantial continuity of mind being of a different characteristic than form. So, when we're talking about the mind being clear and knowing, this knowing aspect, this aspect of having awareness is a unique property to minds. And it is a bit axiomatic within the Buddhist thought, but something that is material, it has to have a material substantial continuum, right? So the tree, right, if we trace back the substance it came from, then it came from the sprout came from the seed came from the fruit of a previous tree, and so on. So we can trace the continuity of the substance that then the material objects that we see today, where they came from. But the mind, then only a previous moment of mind can give rise to another moment of mind. And therefore, because of this, if we keep tracing back to the first moment of consciousness in the womb, then that also has to have a substantial cause. And therefore, that goes to the last moment of consciousness in the previous life, and then so on. And because of that, then the mind is beginningless. And so that is the main sort of argument that is put forward by Dharmakirti. Then, of course, there's other things, and in the required reading packet, I'm not sure how many of you did this, but the first few pages of the Wish-Fulfilling Golden Sun, Lama Zopa Rinpoche also talks about some of the other arguments. Now, whether those are proofs, not sure. But some of the other considerations we can say is the fact that two parents with many children, the individual children could have different personalities, and sometimes those personalities can be very different from the parents. Well, yeah, that is one argument put forward. Then there's also the sort of consideration of children who seem to remember their past lives. Many of you will have known the story of His Holiness Dalai Lama, other great so-called reincarnated lamas who are able to remember events from their past lives. They're able to identify possessions of their predecessor. And so, yeah, how could these things be possible if there is no continuity of consciousness that extends life to life? So again, whether these are proofs, yeah, not sure if it meets the strict criteria of being a proof. But anyway, these can be things that are further considerations to think about. Then arguments against past and future lives. Then mostly people say, well, I can't remember them, right? And this is one of the main arguments that's used even in the ancient Indian times. And well, anyway, Dharmakirti also refutes this by saying, yeah, well, it's one thing that no one can see it, but if one person can't see something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't exist. So anyway, that's the main argument that I hear. Well, if there are past and future lives, then why can't I remember them? So, yeah. Then the question about which do you find most convincing and why, that I can't answer for you. So, yeah, that's for you to consider and think about. Okay. So next question. What is the mental factor of ignorance, and how does it serve as the basis for the arising of attachment and anger? Okay. So again, big picture here, right? So remember this first module, mind and its potential. So what we're trying to sort of illustrate and establish is that, yes, we have this mind, which is clear and knowing in nature. Its potential is to become enlightened, right? And how is enlightenment possible? Well, it's because those afflictions, anger, ignorance, so forth, can be removed, okay? And so knowing about, we say, ignorance is the root of all the other afflictions, but ignorance can be removed. Therefore, all the afflictions can be removed. And that's why, liberation and enlightenment is possible, right? So that's the sort of bigger picture about this question. So now, what is the mental factor of ignorance? How does it serve as the basis for the arising of attachment and anger? Okay. So there's actually a few things going on here. And ignorance in general, right? Ma rikpa in Tibetan. So rikpa means to know. Ma is a negating word. So on one sense, ignorance is merely not knowing, right? Not knowing. So I could even have ignorance about, the population of Nairobi, Kenya, right? But here, we have the general kind of ignorance, and then we have the ignorance that is the root of samsara. So the general ignorance is not knowing, right? And when we now talk about the mental factor of ignorance, this is a bit of, philosophical terminology. But for now, you should know that there are main minds, right? like an eye consciousness, main mind, eye consciousness seeing a cup, then it has a kind of accompanying mental factors that go along with it. Okay. So we can, if it's, say, dark at night, we can see an object in the garden, but we don't know exactly what it is. Oh, we think it's a snake. Okay. In actuality, there's this famous example of a coiled rope at dusk being seen as a snake, right? So, there are two ways that the mental factor of ignorance is then described in relation to it. There's a great Indian master, Asanga, who then talks about ignorance being like the darkness that obscures the clear seeing of the modeled rope as a snake, right? And then Dharmakirti, he says, well, no, it's actually, this wrong mind that grasps onto the rope as a snake. That's the mind of ignorance. So either way, the ignorance being what causes us to have a mistaken understanding, or the mistaken understanding itself. Okay, those are two ways. But then when we talk about how does it serve as the basis of the arising of attachment and anger, then here we're talking about a very special kind of ignorance, the ignorance that grasps onto the inherent existence of other phenomena, ourselves or other phenomena. How that happens is, we ascribe this quality of inherent existence to objects, and then once we hold the object to be inherently existent, then all of its properties, like its beauty or its ugliness, and so forth, are then somehow also intrinsically established along with the object. So then, since we see the beauty of the object being there on the object, right, rather than it being just a projection of our mind, then we have attachment to the object. We want to acquire it. We don't want to let it go. We have grasping, clinging. And then the things that we perceive to be, unattractive, we have hostility towards. We want to, get rid of, destroy, like this. So that is how then this mental factor of ignorance serves as the basis of arising for the other afflictions. Okay, I'm going to pause again here, and we'll see you in the next video.